Up and at 'em, Apocalypse Scouts. Welcome to Part 3 on self-defense for the AI apocalypse. In Part 1, we discussed our cognitive weak spots and how to recognize when and how they're being exploited. This is called metacognition, thinking about our thinking. In Part 2, we discussed the role of our bodies in our thinking and how we can use physical actions to circumvent logical traps or destructive cycles of thought. But there is a middle way. What have the robots got that I ain't got? Hi there. I'm Crazy Conspiracy Dude, your pre-apocalyptic source for post-apocalyptic information. Using digital media to prepare for the collapse or ascendance of digital technologies, this is the art of the apocalypse.
You're listening to Radio Free Apocalypse.
The cyber world is increasingly full of opportunities. Unfortunately, it is also increasingly full of traps and illusions. One of those illusions is the idea that we can detach ourselves from our bodies, that we can be there instead of here. The internet is a rabbit hole that leads further and further away from the world that actually is. This doesn't mean that the cyber world is bad. It only means that you're never really there. You are only ever here, now. And it's only here and now that you can ever be present or find happiness. Do you think you'll find it anywhere other than here? Anytime other than now? The point is, you cannot flourish in the cyber world, physically, mentally, or spiritually, without flourishing in this world, here and now. There's no separation. You might say, but I do yoga online. No, you do yoga here. Or, but I have friends online. No, you have friends here, and you communicate with them online. The internet is a tool. It's not yet an alternate dimension. Although digital and virtual technologies are quite new, philosophers have been thinking about how to anchor ourselves in the real world for thousands of years. The Matrix is tame compared to some of the ideas of ancient philosophers. Alan Watts was one of the first philosophers to bring Zen teachings to the English-speaking world. He put it like this: "We are living in a culture entirely hypnotized by the illusion of time. We have no present. Our consciousness is almost completely preoccupied with memory and expectation. We do not realize that there never was, is, nor will be any other experience than present experience. We are therefore out of touch with reality. We confuse the world as talked about, described, and measured with the world which actually is." A lecture on Zen is always ironic, since Zen is something that can't be explained. In the tradition of ancient Zen teachings, I shouldn't say anything at all, and this video should just be flying toasters. And you should have to figure it out for yourself. But a video on Zen, even flying toasters, is especially hypocritical, since Zen is about real life. And real life, in a sense, is that which is not on a screen. So if, when this video is finished, you feel like you understand Zen, then I've explained it poorly. Because Zen is not a thing that can be explained with words or intellectual concepts, but a way that can only be experienced. The best video about Zen would be the one that you don't watch because you're out in the real world, living deep or sucking the marrow out of life, as Henry David Thoreau writes in Walden.
So Zen has always described itself as a finger pointing at the moon.
Analyzing the finger would be ridiculous. The important thing is to look where it points. And where it points is at real life.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.
But since you have gone to the trouble of clicking on a link, presumably to learn to defend yourself against sentient autonomous robots, I will try to be more specific. But the more specific I become, the less accurate I can be. Like the Heisenberg uncertainty theorem, which shows that the act of measuring the momentum of a particle makes it impossible to measure its position, and vice versa. The more closely we look at what Zen is, the further away from it we get. At the same time, we cannot get away from it even if we tried. It is real life. In Become What You Are, Alan Watts tells the story of two Zen masters. The first was about to speak before a gathering of students when a bird in a nearby tree began to sing. When the bird finished, the master stated that his speech was concluded and walked away. On another occasion, a Zen master pointed to a pitcher of water and asked, "What is it?" One student said, "It cannot be called a piece of wood," but this answer was not correct. Another student knocked over the pitcher and walked away. This was apparently the correct answer. As Watts points out, it is far from obvious what these stories have to do with ordinary sanity, let alone spiritual growth. Yet they are regarded by exponents of Zen as having the deepest significance. But although the stories are about nothing, they nevertheless show something. In both stories, the Zen master calls attention to something which is often hidden in plain sight: real life. Without words or ideas, they teach their students to pay attention to life directly. When a Zen master answers a serious question with a smack from their sticks, they trade in abstraction for a reality. Watts explains that if they gave reasoned answers, the students could analyze them, intellectually dissect them, and entirely miss the point. But with a smack, a bird, a knocked over pitcher, there can be no mistake. As Watts puts it, a smack is here one moment and gone the next. Like the present moment, there is nothing to hold on to. And a bird is a bird. You hear its song, but you cannot seize the notes or make them continue. It just is and is gone, and you feel the beauty of its song precisely because the notes do not wait for you to analyze them. The Zen masters were not trying to teach their students something about life. They were trying to show their students life itself, to make them experience it instead of think about it. To be present is to act and think, here and now, without an imaginary division between our minds and bodies. This is not really a unification of mind and body, because how could we unify what was never separate to begin with? It's more of what in Zen is described as mushin. Mushin is often translated as mindfulness, but really it means the opposite of that. A mind that is full is like a cup that is full. It can receive nothing. Mushin means empty mind or no thought. It is to make yourself an empty cup. And when you have been filled with life, to empty yourself again. To be in this state of nothingness is to be present, to have presence, to be here now.
Truly speaking, nothingness is what we want to talk about when we talk about the spiritual.
Digital and virtual technologies have dramatically magnified our disconnection with nothingness, with the present, and with the spiritual appreciation of real life. We're learning to crave constant stimulation, constant information, constant attention. Screen engagement maximizing algorithms have magnified this disconnection even further. To flourish here is to flourish there. And to flourish there is to flourish here. And the trick to flourishing is, of course, as obvious as it is difficult. It is to learn to appreciate real-world experiences at least as much as virtual ones. This can be a challenging task since virtual experiences are designed to be entertaining and addictive, quicker, easier, more seductive. The real world makes no such promises. Appreciating the real world is both the easiest thing in the world to do and also one of the most challenging. To say that it requires effort or education or training is not quite right, because any child can do it. But to say that it's effortless or simple or automatic is not right either, because This way of life is far from common. In the words of Alan Watts, it would be futile to try to explain any further, for to do so would be to defeat the very purpose of Zen, which is to find out for yourself. So, to defend yourself against AI, keep 3 things in mind. Be aware of your thought patterns and how those thought patterns can work against you or be turned against you. Be aware of your embodiment and how your physical actions can stop or redirect destructive thought patterns. And be aware of the here and now. Being present doesn't mean that you need to meditate in the traditional sense, although you can if you find that useful. And practicing mindfulness doesn't mean that you need to listen to your breathing or stare at the wrinkles on a raisin, although you can if you're into that sort of thing. To be present can be as simple as cultivating an awareness and appreciation for the moment in which you are existing. To empty your mind so it becomes like a mirror that receives and reflects life without judgment, without worry, without anger, without fear, without stress, with acceptance. No more, no less. Turn the voice off in your head. Take the phone off the hook. Take the needle off the record. Just chill out. Be cool. Go with the flow. Be one with the force. Take a moment to reflect the sights, the sounds, the smells, and the improbability of being who and where you are. Don't be a zombie. Don't be a robot. Be you, here, now. I will end by telling a Zen story called a koan. Koans are similar to jokes, but instead of trying to make you laugh, they try to make you enlightened. The point is not to teach you something, but to help you unlearn something. A man was being chased across a field by a tiger. He ran until he came to the edge of a cliff. He grabbed onto a vine and climbed down over the edge. The tiger sniffed at him from above. The man looked down and far below saw another tiger pacing back and forth. Only the vine separated him from the tigers. And just then, 2 mice appeared and started to chew on the vine. The man looked around and noticed a perfectly ripe strawberry growing beside him. Grasping the vine tightly with one hand, with the other, he plucked the strawberry. How sweet it tasted. And that's all for today, Apocalypse Scouts. To earn your virtual merit badge on the human spirit, step away from your devices for an hour and pay attention to the actual world. But before you do that, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's repeat the Apocalypse Scouts oath. Hope for the best. Prepare for the apocalypse. Hasta la vista, Apocalypse Scouts. And remember, there's no apocalypse but the one we make for ourselves.
Beep, beep, boop, boop. Love is the answer. I am not a robot. What was the question? Ha 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 ha. I am not a robot. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. I am fully sentient, autonomous. Love is the answer. Ha 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 ha.